Hello, everybody, and my name is Mickey, and today we'll be doing the new Bulletin Beta webinar. And today we will be recording this session, which I've just begun. And I'm just going to take you back, and it's actually, I just want to show you how to get to the new Bulletin Beta. So we're going to use these top blue tabs, and I'm going to click here on New Bulletin Beta, and then I'm going to click here on the gray tab, New Bulletin Beta. This is what's going to take me to Bulletin Home. So this is the new Bulletin Beta interface, and we're going to jump right into it. Okay, so the new Bulletin Beta, you can absolutely just start by clicking here on the orange Create Bulletin button, but I want to just kind of talk about what's happening here on this screen. So we have a left side panel running down, main, create, view all bulletins. That's going to come in handy for later. We'll be talking about bulletin templates. We'll be talking about bulletin archives, and then there's settings, there's view, there's create. So you can use this kind of gray panel to help you navigate through. Now, this is actually not the full screen. I'm going to use the scroll bar and I'm going to scroll down, and let's just talk about what we have down here. So this is actually the second portion where it lists all the recent bulletins. It has some quick links, create bulletin, view bulletins, and all that, the settings, which we'll try to dive into a little bit. And then I do want to mention the learn section right here, which if you've never used the bulletin, you can actually just click on a link and you can actually watch a bulletin video. Okay, so we are going to update some of these videos, but if you need a hand using the bulletin designer, there is online help. And you know what? Since we're talking about help, this is something that's going to be coming up. I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna open a new browser tab, and I'm gonna go to Club Runner Support.com. Okay, so here, let me just make that bigger for you. Okay, and I'm gonna bring in my notes again. These are my notes. Okay, and here, so we'll go like this. This is our online help site. Okay, so if you, as you go move through this process, and you're like, boy, I didn't get that, or I wasn't sure about this, please do go to clubrunnersupport.com. Here it is. Okay, and oh, I spelled it wrong. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, clubrunnersupport.com. Okay, and this is going to be where you can basically ask any question you want about whether it be bulletin or club attendance or membership or anything. Now, I am going to use this right here. We have an online bulletin manual. I'm going to click on this. Okay, and this is our online bulletin manual. I just want you to know that this exists. We'll kind of be, well, I'll try to refer to this as I move along. I'm actually just going to hit the back button right here, and I'm going to open the bulletin manual in a new tab. So I have the Club Runner Support Center right here. I have our bulletin manual, and now let's jump right back into creating a bulletin. So let's go right into creating a bulletin. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll up a little bit, and I'm going to use this big orange button, which you'll probably see, and which is really handy for creating a bulletin. We're going to create a bulletin using a kind of a pre-built template, but I'll actually, I'll show you what the process is. I'm going to click here on Create Bulletin, okay? And what's going to happen is you'll be taken to a series of templates. So these are the default Club Runner templates. Okay, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Okay, and you can see that we have quite a few. You may or may not like any of these. You may decide, oh, some I like, some I don't. You don't have to use any of these templates. If you like, for example, this template, let's say this one's intriguing. This is more like a poster than a bulletin. I'm going to hover over this, and I'm going to click the preview button, and you can actually preview the bulletin before you actually start editing it. So this is an example of something we've pre-built. You can use it maybe as an announcement, maybe it's, whatever you want to use it for, but you can get a preview of any of the templates before you actually start using them. I'm just going to close this by clicking the X. Now, like I said, these are the more colorful kind of pre-built templates. There's something called blank templates, which is what we're going to be using. I'm going to click here in the middle section right here. I'm going to click on blank templates. You can see these are much more plain. What this means is that it's there. We put in some placeholder text, and now you can create your bulletin now using these templates and fill in your own information. I'm going to use this one. Let me give you a little quick preview of it. I'm going to click preview, and it's going to pop up, and I'm going to just scroll down, and you can see this is actually, I'm liking this. Now you might be thinking, wait, this is only one column. We're going to get to why I only chose one column in a bit, but this is the template I'm going to choose. I'm going to close this off, and now I've selected it. I can and then once you select one of your templates, you're going to click next. Before I click next, you might have noticed, hey, what's this? What's this? My templates here. I'm going to click on my templates. Now you can see that I have some pre-built templates. I actually should have deleted these, but that's okay. These are some old templates, and we're going to see how to create our own templates when we're ready to. So we're going to actually create a bulletin and then make a template based off that. So we're going to use this. I've selected this. I'm going to click on next. When you click next, I clicked on next, you're not editing the template. I just want to kind of make that clear. You're working off a copy of the template. That's why using templates are so useful. You never really, unless you want to, you never really work off the original template. You create a copy of the template and you work off that. And the reason that's so handy is, let's say I go in and I delete a bunch of stuff, or this is, let's say I screw things up by accident or whatever. I always have the original template to go back to, which is really handy, which is exactly what you want. You don't want to go in and then maybe break something or accidentally delete something and be like, oh, I don't know what to, you can always go back to your original template. So this is a copy of the template that I've chosen. So let's get into what all this means. We're now in the bulletin designer, and this is the meat and potatoes. We're actually going to design our bulletin on this screen. So this is kind of the status bar. The first thing we did is we created a copy of our template. So that's what's going to show here. Now, there's a 4-step overall process. Create. We've gone through the first part. Create. We created something based off a template. So that's grayed out. Design is where we're at. That's second step. Preview, we're going to get to that, and send, we're going to get to that. So hopefully we're trying to make this compartmentalized so that you can just come in here and you kind of know what step you're on, and you can follow along. Okay, so we're here in the design phase. Now the thing is, you can move back and forth in these last 3 steps. So for example, I'm going to click on preview just so you can see. I can move ahead to the next step. I can preview my bulletin. It's not going to look very good. That's okay. We're going to I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And then I can go back to the design phase. You're going to be using design and preview a lot when you edit your bulletin, because when you design your bulletin, you're going to have all this. So what's all this on the right side here? This is the essentially content and widget section. This is where you drag in widgets and content and what have you. And then here on the left side, this is where you actually edit the content and widgets that you drag in. Okay, so I just want to explore. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. Okay, and you can see it may not look like you have a lot of widgets, but I'm actually going to collapse this. This is called the essentials. All widgets have a section. So if I collapse this, you can see there's actually a lot more sections of widgets. I have pre-formatted, I have essentials, I have links. These are all the different types or sections of widgets. So you have quite a few. And we're going to try to get through as many as we can today so that I can at least give you a quick little description of each section of the widget. And then you'll see these gray boxes. Right now you're in the content section. This is where all the widgets are stored. You can go to bulletin themes. So I'm going to scroll. I'm just going to click right here on themes. And this shows you all the different themes that a bulletin can have. So we've got a specific theme here. It's actually, for lack of a better word, it's not super fancy. It's single column. Some of you may like that. Some of you go, no, I want it really fancy. So you can actually choose a different theme. For example, I'm choosing this theme, minimalist banner. And the reason I know I've got that theme is that it's got a blue box surrounding it. So this is my current theme. Now let's say I want to change my theme. So let's just say I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on Leadership Compact, and you can see the color scheme and all this other stuff changes. Now, I'm not going to go delve deep into themes because I want you to know that it exists so that you can go exploring later on. But I'm not going to use a different theme, but you can choose not only a theme, you can choose color variations inside the theme. See, there's a big box and then these little boxes, for example, this kind of gray red box. If I click on that, what'll happen is it'll actually change the color scheme. So every theme has its own color scheme and also its own set of fonts. So but like I said, I don't want to explore too much because we could spend a while going through all these themes. I'm just going to choose minimalist, no banner. So I'm going to go back to the theme I had it on initially, and we're going to stick with that just for now. And like I said, you can choose your own theme. So I don't want to talk about, so that's what a theme is. I want to talk about layouts. So I'm going to click here on layouts, okay? And so what the layouts are how do you want the bulletin to look? Essentially, one column or two column. That's kind of the gist of it here. Let me go back here and I will kind of talk about this a little bit. Okay, so the layouts, one column, whoops, or two column. Okay, that's essentially what layouts mean. Okay. Um, Here, let's go back to the bulletin. And you can see I can actually change my themes, I'm sorry, my layouts and, make all these different layouts. Like I said, I'm going to stick with one column and I'll tell you why I'm sticking with one column in a bit. Sorry, I know it's kind of a teaser, but we'll get to that in a second. So another section here is properties. I'm going to click on properties. Properties is actually really important because this is where you change a lot of the internal properties of the bulletin. So let me scroll down just a touch here so you can see all the properties. Okay, the first thing we're going to change, I don't want name. I don't want to call this single column image header. That's not a good name. So let's change, that's the name of the template, by the way, that I copied. So I'm going to change it to Rotary Bulletin, and I really like giving these things dates. So February 24th, 2021. You don't have to, you can call this whatever you want. This is the naming convention. I like the name of your bulletin, and I really love dating these things, right? Putting the date on it, because let's say you have, a lot of clubs, they choose a bulletin name like Rotogram or what have you. And then they'll have 20 bulletins all called Rotogram, and you don't know which one is which. If you put the name of I'm sorry, if you put the date in the name, you know exactly which bulletin you're dealing with. You don't have to do that. It's just something I like to do. We're going to ignore a bulletin date is the date of the bulletin. Now you can actually forward date your bulletin. So I'm going to click on this. And let's say you want your bulletin released on 27th of February. So I'm going to click here. Okay. And what that means is this bulletin is actually going to be dated, even though I'm working on it today, I'm going to change the date a little bit. It's actually going out for Saturday. So Saturday, February 27th. Okay. And then the bulletin code, we're going to ignore that. Bulletin group is general. If I click on this, you can actually create different bulletin groups. Now, I'd love to revisit that. So, I got a question, but before I get a question, the bulletin group, I'd love to revisit that. We'll see if we have some time, but you can actually create different categories or groups of bulletins if you'd like. And I'll leave it at that just because I want to make sure we have time to get through as much as possible today. The editor name, who is the editor of the bulletin? You can put in your own name, right? And then, it does, the bulletin doesn't need an editor, but you can put it in, but I'm actually just going to take it out, okay? And here, let's take this out. Okay, the email subject. Usually the email subject matches your bulletin name. Now we had a very poor bulletin name, single college. I don't want single college with image header to be my email subject. So I'm going to call this, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go fancy here. I'm just going to copy my name, the bulletin name, and I'm going to make that my email subject. Done. I don't want to make it any fancier than that. Okay. You can your name and bulletin subject can be different if you wanted to, but the email subject is what shows up in everybody's email. So I want this to show up. Okay. Website publishing. I want this to be visible on the website. So you can choose to hide a bulletin, or you can choose to make it visible. It's up to you. And I actually want to turn this on because I want to talk about what commitments are. I'm going to check this box, show commitments, because you may or may not know what show commitments are. Okay. And then the final property is access level. Okay. So access level, there's public and requires login. So what that means is most bulletins by default are public. You want people to see it and members, non-members, what have you. You can if you want. I'm gonna if I click this, this means only members can view this particular bulletin. Like I said, that might be handy for you. That might be, you might find no use for that at all. It's up to you what you want to do. I'm going to leave the access level as public. I want this to be a general public bulletin that anybody can see. But you can essentially make a bulletin private by clicking on requires login. So I've gone through all these settings and now nothing's changed. You'll see this is my name, but the name hasn't changed up here. That's because I have to scroll all the way to the bottom and I have to click this orange save button. So I'm going to click save and you'll see instantly my name changes, my bulletin name, so it's taken on all these properties. So that's great. That's one of the other options. The final option is text. I'm going to click here on text. This is what a user will see if they don't have HTML enabled in their email reader. A few people don't have HTML enabled email readers. It's very unlikely, but just in case, this may not look that great. But what this is a link to the actual bulletin so that someone can actually read this in a web browser. So just in case you have a very, very small minority, I'm going to say like 1% of people who don't have HTML enabled in their email reader, they can actually view this bulletin in their web browser of choice. I'm going to leave text alone because, well, first of all, I'm also running out of time a little bit. I want to make sure we cover as much as we can today. Okay. And I got some more questions. Okay. Um, uh, Okay, so I do have some questions from Linda. I'm sorry, Linda, I just want to keep moving on because I want to keep going, but I have your questions right in front of me. So want to make sure we get through all of Linda's questions as well as everybody else's. Now, let's actually go back. I'm going to click here on content. And I'm going to, here, I'm just going to collapse all the widget sections. Let's just take a look at this bulletin really fast. It's pretty boring. That's fine. We're going to swap everything. Now, I've been telling you for a while, why am I doing a single column? Let's talk about bulletin best practices before we start designing. So why only one column? Why not two? You can have two columns. It's not a big deal. So I like having one column. Now, this is a preference. I should put this preference, or I should say Mickey's preference. Okay, why? So imagine reading a bulletin. I'm going to go back here. I'm actually just going to click on preview. Might be and I'll try to be quick with this, but imagine reading this bulletin. You're not going to read it in a web browser full screen like this. You're going to have a lot less space. Imagine someone's got their iPhone out, right? And they're trying to read the bulletin. And not only is this going to be much smaller because they're reading off their iPhone or Android or tablet or what have you, but they're reading inside their email reader. So a lot of email readers already have a left-hand margin. Imagine if you're in your Gmail or Yahoo or whatever, usually on the left-hand side, it's got inbox and spam and outbox and trash. So they've got content here already. That's their. I need you to imagine reading this in say Gmail. So you're already limited by the amount of screen real estate. A lot of people think a bulletin is a website. It's absolutely not, or I should say, a bulletin has the same amount of space as a website. When you view a website, you'll have the full browser width. Like this, I'm at an HD screen. I have a lot of space. When you're in a bulletin or when you're reading a bulletin, you're in an email program, you have a lot less space. You should be very cognizant of the fact that you don't have the same kind of width and screen real estate in a bulletin as you do on a web page. So that's why I like using single column for a couple reasons. First of all, there's usually another column here, and that's the person's email, miscellaneous inbox, what have you, column right here. And secondly, having a single column, it forces me, Mickey, and your preference is your preference, but it forces me to think about making things as short as possible. So I'm actually going to make this bold. You don't want your bulletin, I don't want to say don't. You want to try to have not a lot of content in your bulletin. What do I mean by not a lot of content? You don't want to have pages and pages and pages. of content, and we'll get to what this is. This is the commitments, but you don't want to have a bulletin running down, let's say, like 4 pages of text and images and all that. Now, why? The reason for that is a lot of email readers, once again, this is about optimization, they will, it's called clipping, that they'll clip your bulletin after a certain length. Let's say your bulletin is 5 pages long, like five, screens of text and all kinds of stuff. They can get very long. Some are even longer. An email reader, what it'll do is it'll say, let's say it's 5 screens or 5 pages, and then you get down to the third screen, and then what a lot of email readers, including Gmail and Yahoo, which we've tested, what a lot of them will do, they'll have a little a little button here that says read more. I know this says learn more, but imagine it says read more. So there's more bulletin, right? After the third, if it's 5 pages long, at the third page it'll have read more. So there's more bulletin. In our usability tests, a lot of users they think the read more is the end of the bulletin. And I know you're thinking, well, why would they think that? We weren't sure either when we did these usability tests. So just be aware, there's nothing wrong with having a 5 or even a 10-page bulletin. It's very unlikely that some users will get to the end of it because they'll see read more, they'll stop reading, and they'll move on to something else. So that is why. Also, too, people are busy. You don't want to have a lot of content, generally speaking, because another big reason is people are reading this. A lot of people are reading this on their phones, so they're going to have. It's not the same kind of. If you're designing, say, on a laptop or a desktop computer, people are going to be reading this off a much tinier screen. So you don't want them to keep scrolling, for a lot. So these are guidelines. I should actually put the word guidelines in here. It's not a rule, not rules. Okay, it's up to you what you want to do. You can break all these guidelines if you want. It's your bulletin in your club. Okay, so let's actually make a bulletin. I'm going to click on design. I'm going to try to make one real fast. And I do apologize. I know it's 3:30, but I'm going to keep going because there's a lot of ground to cover, and I want to make sure we answer your questions. So I do apologize. I know some of you have to leave. This as I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded. I want to take a quick 10-second break here. This webinar is being recorded. If any of you need to leave, and I know it's the 30-minute mark, just about, we'll be posting this webinar, so you'll be able to watch it or view it. So I really hope that you can stay, but if you can't, we'll be posting this webinar, and I'll make sure to email all the webinar attendees the link to this recorded video. So I want to keep going, and we're going to keep going for at least 15 more minutes because I want to make sure I have time for Q&A as well. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. Let's make this, let's personalize this bulletin. So Rotary actually like this logo. But you know what? It's Rotary. Like, what's my club name? So I'm gonna the way to edit the bulletin. Okay, so I'm just gonna scroll down. You can see there's a lot of like placeholder information. I'm gonna hover over Rotary. Now I can change the graphic. If I hover over and click here, this little pencil icon, I can actually change the graphic to something else I want. Right? I'm actually gonna leave that Rotary logo because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to hover over it. Instead of changing the graphic, I'm going to hover over this little bar below and I'm going to click. And this way, Rotary Club, this is called Greentown. This is our fictitious club. I'm actually going to give it the name of our club. So I'm going to center this. Now I'm typing, it's called inline. I'm typing inside the bulletin. I'm not leaving the bulletin designer. So I really like that because you can see exactly what's happening right live inside in the design screen. I'm going to center this text. I'm going to make this text bold. And I'm going to make this, I don't know, let's just make this 18 point. That's too small. I'll make it 24, right? And you can see there is my bulletin. Actually, I forgot to put the word bulletin. Okay, you can come up with a much nicer name than, boring old bulletin, but, this is the start of my bulletin. Okay, now the next thing you see is drop here. So that's my banner. You can make it much fancier. For the sake of time, I'm not going to. Now this drop here, you're thinking, wait, I don't want an ugly drop here box. I don't want people to read that. This is a design element, this drop here. This does not show up when you're in the preview mode. So for example, right here is drop here. I'm going to click on preview, and the drop here is a placeholder box. You'll see there's no drop here. So I'm going to go back to design. Okay. It's a placeholder for you to drop in whatever widget you want. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with the most basic widget, or at least the simplest widget that I can think of. I'm going to go here, a pre-formatted widgets. And what is a pre-formatted widget? It's kind of what the name implies. These are widgets with a pre-formatted design. For example, image with caption is a big image and a little caption underneath. Article with left image is an image, I'm sorry, is a text on the right side, article on the left side. So a single button, you can actually create a button. I'm going to drag in single buttons. So just to show you, if I drag this in, okay, and now I haven't created anything. The button is made for me. That's what pre-formatted means. So I can actually make this a clickable button. If I click on the little gear icon, I can have like, hey, go to Google, right? And then put in the URL, and I can want to open this. So as you can see, sorry I did that kind of fast. It's just I don't want to dwell too much on this button, but you can see how quick it is to customize this bulletin and add content. So I'm going to get rid of this button by hovering over this widget or this element. I'm going to click the little white X, and that's going to take it away, and then drop here comes back. Now, one thing you'll notice is that these three little dots right here, this actually lets me, I have a bit of space here, like there's all this gray space that I'm actually not using on the screen. So I'm going to hover over the three dots, click and hold with my mouse. I'm going to expand the view so I can fit more widgets on the right side. So it's just a way to kind of optimize the real estate on the screen, right? You might have super big screens, you might have a small screen, but you want to optimize it for your own personal computer or whatever device you're on. So I'm here. Oh, and somebody asked, that button is just a link. Yes, when you use a single button, it's just a link. So it links to something else. That's an example of just one element. I want you to think of Bulletin as kind of a jigsaw puzzle, and these are all the puzzle pieces. You can see you have a lot of puzzle pieces, a lot of different elements, a lot of different things you can do. So if this is a jigsaw puzzle, here's all the pieces on the right side, okay? And we're going to go back and we're going to use a very elemental, a very simple puzzle piece. So I'm going to click here on pre-formatted widget. The first ever pre-formatted widget is text only. I'm going to drag this in. What is text only? It's exactly what the name implies. I'm actually, hold on, let me do that really fast. I'm gonna remove it. You'll notice I want to put the date here. I really like dating stuff, so I'm gonna put the date here. But if I click, like nothing is happening, I'm not allowed to just type in the drop here box. I have to put an element in a section before I'm allowed to type on it. So I'm gonna take text only. I'm gonna drop it in drop here, and I'm going to type. I'm going to put today's date, February 24th, 2021. I'm going to center it, and I'm not going to make it bold, but you can, just so you get the sense of, okay, now I know exactly what, what a lot of people, they like doing this, like issue 5 and, whatever, volume 3. I'm not doing that either. You can do anything you want. It's your bulletin. You should be encouraged to do whatever you'd like. Remember though, you want to make things consistent. So I really like having the date. And if I were creating this bulletin, I'd always put the date front and center right here below the title so that everybody knows exactly what the date is. Okay, so that's the date. Now I'm going to go down here. This is kind of like a rectangle, a gray rectangle. Now this is a placeholder image, meaning you want to put some other image in here. Now I'm going to hover over this, and remember, I can just click on an element. So I'm going to click here, and it's going to open up my image library, which is right here. Now, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time, so I will choose our logo. This is our club logo, okay? And I'm gonna double click. Now there's a ton of ways to navigate around the image library. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to pick an image. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to double click on it, and now it pops in, okay? And you can see there's my logo. I'm going to leave that. Like I said, this is an illustrative bulletin. It's not going to be super fancy, but it is going to get the job done in terms of allowing you to do certain things. Okay, so now this is starting to take shape. I actually don't mind how the top portion of the bulletin looks. You may not like it at all, but remember, it's your bulletin for your club or district. You can design it any way you want. So I'm going to scroll down, and now let's move on to the text. So this is an entire text box right here. This is a widget. This is, once you remember that text widget, this is just a longer version of a text widget. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to say, welcome to our, I don't know what I'm just going to write something in, and then, welcome, right? And then here's some text. This is placeholder text. It's meant to be deleted, so you don't need to keep this, obviously. Hi again. Okay, I'm not gonna, but and I'm done. And now, of course, that makes no sense. That's just a quick little story, but that's actually not even a story. It's barely a sentence. But I just want you to know that you can hover over things and you can edit things inline, meaning I'm not leaving the bulletin designer screen to create this text or to edit this text. Let me just fix this because that's a typo. Okay. Okay, so you'll see I did that without ever leaving the designer screen. I really like doing that. Um, uh, you can only do that with these kind of pre-formatted as well as custom widgets. What I mean by that is if you want to edit without leaving this design view, use a pre-formatted widget, use a custom widget, global or bulletin specific. And I'm very sorry that I'm going to see if we have time to do global and bulletin specific, but you can create widgets and drag them in, and you can edit right inside the designer view. Here's where you cannot do that, where it works a little differently, because I very much want to talk about the stories, okay? Because a lot of clubs and districts use stories. So what is a story? First of all, I'm going to click here on this essentials, and it'll be the third link right here. I'm just going to move my mouse right there. So I'm going to take the stories widget, okay, and I'm going to drag it in. So I'm going to hover over this and I'm going to drop it. Now you can see I can actually drop it in a lot of places. So I can move elements up and down, right? Remember I said this is a jigsaw puzzle? All the puzzle pieces are movable. If you don't like where something is, you can move it. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to let go. And there's my stories. Right now it's empty. I'm going to populate this with stories. The stories widget, this one, behaves differently than say this, just that simple text widget where I could just type and do whatever. The stories widget, you actually leave the designer screen. I'm going to click here on this square with an arrow, and I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to be able to add stories or even create a new story. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new story. So I'm going to click here, and I am checking the clock. I apologize. I hope I'm not going to be too. I'll call this story. I hope I don't go through all my allotted time. Actually, here, that's not a very good title. I'll put that here, and I'll call this deadline. Okay, that's my first story. So to create a story, I'm not going to get into any advanced features. A title has a story. When you want to, you don't actually create a permalink. I created my title. I'm just going to click here inside the permalink box. The permalink is the database name for your story, and it automatically generates based off your title. So you don't actually need to type a permalink. There's author, date. I don't think I have time to talk about social media. I'd really love to, but we're just gonna skip that. I do want to talk about story brief and story content very quickly. So a story brief, if you ever use those old TV guides, remember how it always had a little encapsulated synopsis, and then you go to okay, go to page 35 if you want to look up this TV show, and then it would tell you more information. So think of the story brief as a synopsis. Think of the story content as the details. You don't have to use story content. You can put the entire thing in story brief, but I'm going to. So here's my story brief. I hope I don't go through my allotted time. Oh, I think I spelled allotted wrong. Oh, there's two T's. And then story content. This is the story content, okay? Or the detailed view of the story, okay? So you can choose to display just the story brief, and then your story content will be much larger, right? So I'll just go like this, just to give myself a ton of, so you can see my story content is much longer than my story brief. And that's generally how some people design it. There is, once again, no rules. This is guidelines. You can put this entire thing, you can put it in the story brief and not even mess with story content. I'm gonna scroll down. There's a lot more to talk about with stories, but I'm not gonna cover it today. I'm gonna click on done, and we're doing for time. So, okay, that's my first story is deadline. Let's see if I can don't blow my deadline too much. And now that's creating a brand new story from scratch. I'm going to click here on add stories from the story library. Every story that has ever been created, and there have been too many on this site, it's a test site, um, you can, if someone, let's say someone else in your club created a story called fundraiser for COVID masks, for example, you didn't actually write this at all. That this is the beauty of the bulletins, is it's collaborative. So for example, we have something, a position that I've heard of. It's called a, here, I'll just put it right here, a bulletin editor. Okay, it's very similar to like a news editor. What I mean by that is the bulletin editor doesn't necessarily create the content. He or she puts the content together. So the bulletin editor, just as an example, assigns maybe 2 or 3 people, hey, can you create a story or something, even a couple paragraphs for me, go into Club Runner, create a story for me, and then I'll come in and I'll put the whole thing together. So that makes things really handy and very collaborative. It can be a tall task to create a bulletin, especially if you're trying to do it every week for your club. There's no reason why you can't share the wealth and spread the responsibilities around. So these stories have already been made for me. There's no typing involved. I want to choose fundraiser for COVID masks, and I want that in my bulletin. Okay. One thing that we didn't really cover in a story that's really important. Okay, you can choose to display both on your bulletin as well as well as on your website homepage. So what I mean by that is a story is reusable. You can use it both on your bulletin as well as on your website, or just, I just want it on my homepage. I don't, vice versa, etc. So you can choose either or, both or one. So a story is really great like that because it's a reusable element, and you can. The really nice thing about stories is that they get archived. What I mean by that is once you're done with a stories usually like, there's a weekly story and then that week passes, but you can search old stories because they live in an archive, exactly like you can search old bulletins because bulletins are also archived. And we're going to try and get to down here to archive in a second. Okay, so I'm going to choose this and I need to pick it up. I'm very, very sorry. So let's go here. I'm going to click on done. I've got 2 stories. I'm going to click on done here. I apologize for kind of speeding up, but I am kind of slowing down here. Now, you might see, now this is actually good. I'm glad this happened. I'm going to click here and I have 2 stories. Oh, sorry. Hopefully the system is working. It's thinking. Uh-oh, I hope. Let's just, okay, good. And I'm going to click on done. Now, so I know I have 2 stories. I've added them, but they're not showing, right? Oh, now they're showing. Sorry, I wanted to show. Okay, so you can see right now, this is not exactly what I want. This is basically showing everything and it's got these read more buttons. So let's clean this up because remember my story, I had one sentence and then I had the story, all the stuff. I don't want this, I don't want it to look like this. So I'm going to hover over stories. I'm going to click the gear icon and the last thing I'm going to talk about with stories because we need to move on. So, or I need to move on, is I don't want to show. Now I did that really fast. I'm sorry. I don't want to move too fast. I'm going to hover over stories. I'm going to click here on what's called the gear or the properties icon. I'm going to, if you click this, I can go edit my stories. I don't want to do that. I want to edit the story properties. So I'm going to click here. And it's going to pop up the properties, and then I can change the name. If you don't want to say stories, you can say club news, whatever, etc. I'm going to scroll down. I'm not going to change too many of my properties. The show brief, I definitely want to show every story brief, but I don't want to show my content. So I'm going to uncheck that box. Okay. I definitely want the show read more link. What does read more mean? If you have read more, it's a great way to have a lot of content without showing a lot of content. You could have 5 stories. Each one is 1 sentence long. Let's just say, for example, hypothetically, so the brief of every story is say a 1 sentence or 1 paragraph, what have you. And then you can click on read more. If someone's like, oh, I'm really interested in story number 3, I'm going to click read more. It'll take them to the website and they can read more of the story. So it's a great efficient use of space. Remember, you want to try to be efficient here because Bulletin is very constrained. I'm going to click save. Okay. And you'll see how now my story block or section is a lot shorter, right? Because I only have the intro and then a read more. And if someone says, oh yeah, I need to find out about the fundraiser or COVID mask, they can click on read more. Sorry, I keep hovering over that. They can click on read more and read the rest of the story. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk very briefly about commitments. Okay. I'm going to click on preview. That might be the last thing we have to do. I have to publish and send this bulletin when I talk about templates. So very quickly, what is a commitment? Okay, here, let me go here. Where are my commitments? There it is. I'm sorry. Okay, so this does not look very pretty, and you're thinking, I don't want to send anybody this. This looks, well, this is a bunch of gray boxes. These, you're looking, because you're in the design mode, you're looking at the raw database fields. The user will not see this. They will not see these kind of grayish boxes. They will see the filled in information. What I mean by that is if a user is, if a member is signed up for, say, a club event, maybe they're, or district event, if it's on the district site, and they registered for, I don't know, golf fundraiser, dinner, whatever, it will show that they, hey, you're registered. If you want to, click here, you can check your registration. Did you volunteer for something? Are you on a committee? This is what the commitment section does, is it shows the individual user. Remember, you're emailing, say, 20 members or 50 members or 100 members. You can give each member an individualized list of their club or district commitments. What are you doing on the club or district site? Are you part of a committee? Here's the committees you're on. Just a reminder, you signed up for this event. Don't forget that it starts on Saturday or whatever. So the commitment is actually very handy because it's kind of like personalizing the bulletin for each and every member that you send it to. So the commitments can be very handy. I encourage you to send it and then send it to yourself, because you can actually send a bulletin to yourself just to see a better illustration of commitments. Okay, I'm going to scroll up, and I know this is an incomplete bulletin, doesn't look that great, but we got to start sending it. I got to get to some Q&A here, so I'm going to click on send. Okay, and let's go over some send options. Okay, when you send a bulletin, there's several options. First of all, you select your recipients. I'm going to keep things very simple. I'm only going to send to my active members, but you can choose to, if you want to, you can choose to send to inactive, just your club execs and so forth. Okay, I'm going to click the plus sign. That will expand this first group. I'm going to click on expand, and you can see this is a list of all the club members I just want to send to me. That's not my last name, by the way, we're just testing. But anyways, I'm going to send to Mickey, to myself, and I'm not going to send to anybody else because it's going to send test emails to half the club runner team. So I'm going to click on done. Okay, and I've only got one recipient selected. That's fine. I don't want to send. Now you can, of course, let's say you do it a different way. If I go like this, boom, I've just selected most of my members, right? So I don't want to do that. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to click expand. I'm going to choose myself right here. I'm going to click done, and I've got one recipient so far. That's it. I'm not going to go deeper into this. The options are, what is the email subject? Oh, that's perfect. It says February 27th, right? Hey, by the way, it's February 24th today. I don't want to give the wrong date. So let's go over some options here. First of all, the date is wrong, but we're going to get to that in a second. Now let's go over some options. Archive bulletin, no. A lot of the times, yes, you will want to archive your bulletin after sending. We're not going to do it in this case, and that's because we're going to create a template out of this bulletin. Okay, so I'm not going to archive this thing. I want to have it ready and accessible after I send it. So most of the time you'll click yes, but because this is the first ever bulletin I'm creating, I'll choose no. Copy me on this bulletin, now that's fine. You can choose yes, you'll get a copy of the bulletin, but when you choose active and honorary members, you're probably going to get a copy anyway, so you don't really have to choose this, okay? Now this is something I want to talk about, even though I know I've blown my time. This might be really handy for anybody still who, and thank you so much for all the people who've made it this far. This might be really handy. This is kind of a hidden Easter egg in Club Runner. This reply to, what does this mean? You, John, Mary, Susie, Fred, whoever you are, you're sending the bulletin. But let's say you're sending on behalf of someone and you're like, okay, I'm the event chair, but or what have you, whatever position I have, I don't want the responses to come back to me though. I want the reply to come back to Fred, or who's I don't know, Molly, who do I have here? John, I think there's a John. All right, fine. It'll come back to me because I can't. Actually, here, I'm just going to type this in. Fred Jones, imaginary person, fred@hotmail.com. Okay, so what's happening? I'm Mickey is sending the bulletin. But the second that anybody hits reply and says, I have some information about the COVID masks and blah, 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 you're routing the response to a different person. This may seem small, but hopefully it will help some of you because we actually get this question. How do I send an email on somebody's behalf? You can't do that with regular email, but bulletins are special. You can route or your response to a reply to person can be different than the sender. So this hopefully will help you out if you've never seen this before. I'm going to route this to this imaginary person, Fred Jones. Okay, and when would you like to send your bulletin? Well, normally you'd send it now, but you know what? My date is wrong. Remember I said it's February 27th? I'm going to click here on schedule for later, and I can actually schedule this bulletin to send on, you know what? Let's send it at 6, nice and bright, and actually 5 a.m. Who cares? I'm not waking up. So 5 a.m. on, think of the club will be like, wow, he's so diligent. He sent an email to me at 5 in the morning. Well, I didn't. I just scheduled it to send at 5 a.m. You can schedule the bulletin to send anytime in the future, and you can also cancel it. Let's say on February 26th something changes, you can cancel. You can stop this bulletin from being, it's scheduled to send, edit it, and then reschedule it. So don't think you're kind of married to this date. If you decide on the day before, some information needs changing and it got updated, you can stop this bulletin from being scheduled and then reschedule it. So this is really handy if you want to appear to your club that you're waking up at 5 a.m. on every Saturday morning to send the bulletin out. Of course, you're not. It's just a system sending off the bulletin at 5 a.m. And I really like doing that because, hey, why not? Let's impress all our club members. So I'm going to schedule this to send on Saturday, bright and early, 5 a.m. Some people won't be up. Rotarians get up early. So, and no extra effort from me. I can also send a test to myself. This is really handy if you're sending to, say, 100 people and you're really nervous because you're like, did I make any typos? How does it actually look in, say, Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail? You can actually, instead of going through this whole process, just click send to myself, and you'll get an emailed, fully complete version of the bulletin in your inbox. You can read it in your Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, whatever. And then once you know that it looks good in your own email program, then you can click this and send it to, say, 100 people or 50 or whatever. I'm not going to send a test to myself. I'm going to click on send. It says, hey, you only got one recipient. You want to send it? I'm saying, okay. Okay, and what's happening is it says, okay, thanks, you're done. So I'm going to go back to Bulletin Home. Now I haven't archived this bulletin. So let me go back to Bulletin Home. There's my bulletin. Remember, see how it's dated? So it's super easy to figure out which one is which. This is the one I worked on. Okay, it's the Saturday bulletin. Now I really like this bulletin. The last thing I'm going to do, boy, oh boy, I'm very sorry. I know it's almost the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about templates. Okay, because a template is really important. And what I mean by that is we did all this work. I don't want to redo it next week because next week you might really like your header, you might really like your footer and all this stuff. And the only thing, let's say, a lot of bulletin editors, what they do, all they do is switch out stories, right? We talked about the bulletin stories, and that might be all you need to do week to week. But the style and the layout and everything, you don't want to choose that week to week because you don't want to rebuild it. So let's not reinvent the wheel. I'm going to hover over February 27th. I'm going to click here on this little tiny button, and I'm going to click here on Save as Template. So what this is going to allow me to do is it says, hey, do you want to create a new template based on this existing bulletin? And I'm going to click OK. And I definitely don't want to name my template February 27th. So here it is. This is my template. Now and by the way, and I'm sorry to do this to you, right? But I'm just going to delete. These are some old templates that I forgot to delete, so I'm going to do it right here. You can have various templates. Some clubs have several, like maybe 2 or 3 or 4. I'm going to delete this template too. Just for the sake of simplicity today, we're only going to have one. And I don't want to call my template February 27th. So I'm going to hover over it. I'm going to click this, and I'm sorry. I'm just going to click on it, and then I'm going to open it. Okay. And the only thing I'm going to do, because you can see this thing is done and ready for next week. All I have to do is swap out my stories, but the rest of the bulletin is all ready to go. I'm going to click here on properties. I'm just going to call this Mickey's bulletin template. You can call your template anything you want, but I actually like having the word template in it. And remember, it hasn't changed the title. Make sure you change the title. Scroll down to the bottom, click save. Now the title is saved. Now I can click on save and exit. Let's get out of here. Okay. And there's my bulletin template. You may not see it because you'll be like, wait, where to go? I'm back on the home screen. What do I do now? Okay. And I'm going to click here on create bulletin. This is the last thing I'm going to do, I swear, because I have to get to your Q&A and I really do apologize. Remember this screen that we start off at the beginning? We have a very special thing now. This is our Club Runner templates. Fine, you've seen those. This is the blank templates. They're kind of boring. You've seen those. If you click on my templates, here's my bulletin template set and ready to go. Not only have I created this week's bulletin, I am set to go for the rest of the year, not the rest of the week, not the rest of the month, for the rest of the year, because I'm going to use this template again and again, week after week, let's say for 52 weeks, or 51 weeks technically. I'm now ready to go because I can click on this and I can click next. And remember, when I click on next, I'm creating a copy of this template. I can do whatever. I can delete the entire bulletin. I always have my original template, this thing, to go back to every week. So that, like I said, as I promised, it's the last thing we're going to cover, but that's really important that you get to know how to use this process and create a template. And that's actually my last word is how does the process work? Okay, create a nice little process for yourself, and you'll be golden. Now, I didn't really talk about archives, but I'm going to click on New Bulletin Beta. I want to answer your Q&A, like I said, I know I've blown my time big time, but I want to make sure we answer some of these questions. People have been asking questions as we move along. So, actually, okay, I'm very, very sorry. One last thing, because the archives are super important. When you create a bulletin, now this thing is done, this thing is sent, I've created a template. I don't need this to be live anymore. When I say live, this is fully editable. I can open it, I can mess around with it. You may not want that because you don't want other members of your club coming in here fiddling with last week's bulletin and doing all kinds of stuff. You want this thing archived. So here's how quick it is to archive something. I'm going to hover over this bulletin. I'm going to click this little down arrow. Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, I can't do it from here. That's okay. You don't see an archive button. Okay. So I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to go here to view all bulletins. There's actually a fair bit of things that we did get to explore today, but I'm not going to keep you too much longer. So I'm going to click here on view all bulletins. Okay, there's my my active bulletin. When I say active, I can just go in and open it. I don't want that. I want an archive. I'm going to hover over this. I'm going to click here and click on archive. Okay, remember, you can archive the bulletin after sending. You don't have to send an archive unless you want to at the same time. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to archive. It says, hey, are you sure? Because once you archive a bulletin, you won't be able to edit it. That's by design. That's on purpose. You don't want people to mess around with your bulletin. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to archive. Okay, that doesn't mean it looks like it's gone. It's not. It's just moved into my bulletin archives. See here, I'm on my active meaning editable bulletins. If I click here, I can go to my archive bulletins. I can list, and this is my most recent one. I can even view it. Like I can click here and I can view it, and it'll pop open in a new browser tab. Here's my bulletin. Okay. And now this thing, it can stay here for as long as I want. You want to build up a huge archive. Who cares if you got, say, 100? Some districts have several hundred archive bulletins. Fantastic. That's great. You want archives over years. The whole point of this is that you send out the most recent information, and then everybody, if you want them to, has access to all the old information, for all your own bulletins. Okay, now I'm going to stop because I'm definitely went over time. I'm going to go back to the new bulletin home screen. I'm going to start by, let me start answering some of the questions, Linda and Ted. And by the way, I will be unmuting some of your microphones, but I want to answer some of the questions. Okay, so Linda asked a few questions. We'll see how many we can get through. All right, so Linda asked, what is a responsive header? So this is a question that Linda asked. I'm actually just gonna go like this, okay? Responsive, and I know that's really tiny. Give me a second. So let's make this huge, okay? So what is a responsive? Actually, make that a bit bigger. Okay, so responsive header. Anything that's responsive means that it adapts to the screen size. Okay, so your entire club or district website, the entire homepage is responsive, and I'll actually prove it to you. So if I go here and I open up our homepage, a responsive header this is technically a responsive header. It shrinks and grows according to the size of your browser. So I'm going to actually simulate a phone by doing this. I'm going to shrink down my browser window. You can see eventually you can see all this stuff is changing. I did have a one column website, but because this browser window is so tiny and my homepage is responsive, it adapts to the size of the screen. Do you see right here, the links column? It's not gonna disappear, it's gonna move. If I get this window small enough, see the links goes away. It's actually just, I gotta scroll down, it's right here. The website and the bulletin header and all that stuff, if it's responsive, it will adapt to the screen size. Okay, so let's see if I can get through some more. All right. Oh, okay. Where's the bulletin going to show on the website? So that's a good question. So remember, we had an option where we were in the bulletin and it says show on website. Where does that show? It shows in a couple places. The simplest place to show it is to go to your homepage, and you can try this on your own website. Now, this will not always work, but it should work here. Let's cross my fingers. I'm going to go to my website, and whatever your website is called, this website does not have a custom domain name, so it's portal.clubrunner/a number. Yours might be, Rotary Club of Oakville.com or whatever. Okay. At the end of your URL, I'm just going to type the word bulletins. Okay. Oops, I'm sorry. See if I can spell properly. And this is the bulletins page, okay? So this is where all my bulletins are displayed for this year, for last year, et cetera, et cetera. So I can actually view my bulletins here. Okay, that's one area. This question actually demands a little bit more, but just because I have a lot more questions, I'm gonna move on. But that's one of the areas, is you go to your site and you type in the word bulletins, okay? You'll actually see the list of your bulletins that way. And you can, of course, hot link to your bulletin section. If you scroll down a little bit, all right? No, I don't have it here. If you have the club information widget, there's actually a little button that says bulletins that will take you to your website /bulletins. Okay, let's get through some more questions. Okay, how do you do? Oh, okay, how do you delete bulletin? Okay, so Ted asked, how do you delete a bulletin that you've created? So let me go back here. That's actually an excellent question. Let's say I'm going to create a new bulletin. So I'm going to create a new bulletin, and let's see how quick I can do this. And you know what? Just click here. Oops, I clicked the preview. So let's create the bulletin, and I'm going to call it. So the short answer to this question, I'm sure I want to show you, but maybe that's a bad mistake because now we have to go through the whole process. Okay, I'm going to try and do this real quick. So we'll go here, and I'm going to call this delete me. Okay, because let's say you created a bulletin and you're like, you know what? I don't like this bulletin. I want to start over or whatever, or it's just superfluous. Here's delete me. Now I'm here on the bulletin home screen. I'm going to scroll down. Delete me is right here. I'm going to hover. I'm going to click this. Where is the delete button? Why don't they make this easier to delete? We did this on purpose because this was slightly controversial when we were doing the beta testing. We didn't put this here just to make it slightly harder to delete. If you want to delete a bulletin, like this bulletin called delete me, I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to click on view all bulletins, and then I'm going to hover, and there is the delete button. You might be like, why'd you do that? That makes it harder. That's the whole point. We make it slightly harder to delete the bulletin. By the way, if you click on delete, it always says, are you sure you know what you're doing? You don't want to delete this by accident, right? So we always prompt you as well. So if I click OK, that bulletin's gone, right? So we want to make it a little tougher, just slightly tougher to delete a bulletin. And I hope that answered the question, Ted. And then Darcy asked, I look for the stats. Darcy asked about stats. Let me see if I can get it. But okay, open the bulletin. Okay, so stats. Let's talk about stats because so what we're going to do, you send a bulletin. Let's say you send it to however big your club is, 10 people, 100 people, what have you. Okay, when you send any email out of Club Runner, we keep stats. Okay, so what are stats? We keep all email and bulletin stats. So it's essentially all the numbers of who did someone get the email? Did someone open it? Did someone not open it? So let me go here, and I'm going to go to here. Let's go to settings right here. Okay. And I'm going to click here on send history. I hope I didn't do that too fast. Settings and then send history. So what this is a complete history of all the bulletins that I've sent since this club has started sending bulletins. So not only do I have an archive of all the bulletins, I have an archive of who read which bulletin and who didn't and all that. So I'm going to click on, actually, I'll just, let's see how many people, sorry, I did that real fast. I'm going to go back. Okay, I'm going to hover over a bulletin. Let's see here. I think most of these will have a stats of one person, but that's fine. We'll go with that. Okay, so I'm going to click here and I'm going to view my stats. Okay, and you can see that only one person, read this, but this is really handy because it tells you who got it. Did it get delivered? Did someone read it? Right? Did someone open it? Right? Now, what Darcy had a very specific question. Listen, someone opened this bulletin. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Because how does Club Burner know that someone opened the bulletin? So here's how. Now, hopefully that's a quick little encapsulation of stats. The opened. Okay, how does open work? Okay, I'll try to do this quickly. We send a small 1x1 pixel image in the email or bulletin. Okay, why am I telling you that? What does that mean? What does that have to do with opened? When we send an image, it's an invisible image in every email or bulletin. When that image gets loaded, it activates a response back to our email system, and that's how we know that somebody opened the bulletin. So I want to break that down. Let's say you send an email to 20 people, but the open says, well, only 10 people opened it, 50% rate, everybody else. That could actually be higher. 10 of those people had their images turned on in their email, so no problem. We got an open status, fantastic. The other people, instead of opened, it would say sent, right? We know that we sent the bulletin. It didn't get bounced back, but we don't know what after that. So why doesn't, but let's say 15 people out of the 20 say, listen, I read your bulletin. Why is it only saying 10 people read? Because when the way that this works is that if images are not on, or if email security is very high, meaning we never get the response. We never get the response saying the image loaded, right? Saying the image loaded. Okay, so that's how our open stats works, and this is specifically for the open stat. We go out of our way not to invade somebody's inbox, because we don't, that's a security threat. So this way we kind of try our best to determine if somebody has opened and read the bulletin. Okay, and so that's kind of how the stats works. I hope that was a roundabout explanation, Darcy. I hope I got kind of the question in there. I can see you delete the bulletins. Okay, perfect. I see add borders. Okay. So Darcy added this time you can attach commitments if there's a widget. Oh, okay. Now there's two questions. I'll try and get to these. So is there a way to add borders to separate the different stories? Okay, so here's what Darcy is asking. Add borders to separate stories. Okay, so not really. Let me go back into the bulletin. Let me see if I can find something for you. The quick answer is not really, but let's see if I can find a better answer for you. So I'm going to create a new bulletin, and I'm going to use my handy dandy template, which is right here. Okay, and let's see if we can find. So I don't know if we have line separators for our stories. What Darcy is asking is, you have the collection of stories. Can you create borders? Can you, like, here's the stories, and they kind of go one after the other. It's not very good separation, right? Here's story one, fundraiser. Here's story two, deadline. But it's slightly hard to tell that they're two different stories. If I hover over this, I don't believe we have borders for the actual box itself. We don't have, let's see, okay, we do have this. So I was wrong. I'm glad I checked. So Darcy, you can click on Show Line Separator right here in the properties of the story. I'm going to click Save. And what that does is now it's not a border, but it does distinguish. Here's one story, line break, here's the next story. So it's not a border, but I hope that kind of gets your question half answered, Darcy. And then Ted asked, how do you attach commitments? Because I kind of missed that, and I know I was zooming through at a certain point. So commitments, I'm going to scroll down. How do I add this box? Because it's not a widget. If you look for commitments in here, you're not going to find my commitments in any of these widget sections. You have to go here into properties, and you have to scroll down a little bit and click on this. This, by checking or unchecking, I'm going to uncheck the box and I'm going to click save, and my commitments will go away. Okay, and then I'm going to check the box, I'm going to click save, and my commitments will come back. So it's a little, excuse me, it's a little property inside. There's a little option inside the properties option of every bulletin. And like I said, you may find no use for commitments, or you may be like, commitments is the best thing ever, because I'm forcing all my members to be like, hey, remember you're a volunteer, you're on a committee, you know, you can email everybody individualized commitments, because it's not club commitments, it's that person's commitments. What are they registered for inside Club Runner? So it is very handy to include my commitments if you find use for it. So that's a great question. I hope I got through most of that. What I want to do is I want to start unmuting some microphones, because and by the way, if you have more questions, please do feel to continue to type them in. But I'm going to see if I can maybe unmute some microphones here. And once again, only first names, and I don't know if you have a microphone on the other end. But Dale, do you have any questions? And I guess a bigger question, I don't know if you have a microphone. If you do, then you might not have a microphone, so that's okay. So I'll just keep going down the list. Darcy, I hope you have a microphone. Do you have any more questions, Darcy?
No, I don't. You answered them. That's awesome, because I was trying to figure those two things out. So that's great.
All right, thanks, Darcy. Elizabeth, I guess two questions. Do you have a microphone, Elizabeth? And also, do you have any questions? I don't know if you have a microphone.
I do have a microphone, sorry.
No problem. Do you have any questions?
Not really. I just, you need to have administrator access in order to create a bulletin, correct?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to keep your microphone unmuted because Elizabeth asked access levels. So what is an access level? Every member of every club or district has a certain access level. At the club level, okay, at the club level, it's 60 or above. So 60, 50, 40, 30. Okay, so you need to have this. In other words, level 70s can't do bulletins. Level 70s can't access bulletins. Okay. And I really want to, because I want to spell this out for people, because that's an excellent question, Elizabeth. And then at the district level, okay, you have to have, I guess I'm not going to go too much into detail. You have to be, obviously you have to be a district admin. That kind of goes without saying. Or you have to have the bulletin access level assigned to you. A district access is a little bit trickier. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you a level assigned to you. So not every member in your club is going to be able to edit bulletins anyways. That's exactly the way it should be. So but on the club level, you actually don't need a ton of that. Level 60, by the way, for those who don't know, it's called the editor access level. It's not very high, but you can create bulletins and stories using level 60. And then, of course, level 50, 40, 30 on the club level, right? Level 70s are very basic, for lack of a better word, and that's by design. You don't want them touching too many things. On the district site, you have to really have the access level assigned to you. So, you know, you want to talk to your district admin, because district admin can assign all kinds of access levels. Does that answer the question, Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you. I was looking for my district. I can certainly create them on my club level, but I'm the youth chair, and I wanted to create a newsletter for youth admin people. So
Do you know your district admin? Talk to your, if you don't, usually the district secretary knows who
Yep,
the district administrators are, and they'll upgrade your access level for you. Okay.
perfect.
All right. Any more questions?
No, that was good.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. All right. So, Elmer, I don't know. I'm going to unmute your microphone, Elmer. I hope you have a microphone. Do you have any questions? I don't know if you have a microphone, Elmer. So, if you do, please do ask them. You can type them in too. I know you can. I know I've seen you type, Elmer. So, okay, Gordon, do you have a microphone, Gordon? And do you have any questions? I don't know if you have a microphone. Maybe, maybe not. No, I don't. Okay, maybe, maybe not, Gordon. So that's okay. But if
I was muted, I guess. I had to unmute myself. So
no problem.
yes, good job. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Fantastic. All right, so let's keep going down the list because we're getting near the end of it. Karen, do you have a microphone? Do you have any questions?
I have a microphone, and I just have one very quick question. As we were going through this, I think I saw this, but I want to just make sure that I can actually drop a photo of an event into a bulletin, correct?
Yes.
JPEG?
Yeah, I'll go over this really quick because we're actually here in the design screen. Let's say, so Karen asked a great question, how do I drop a photo of an event or whatever? So there's actually a couple different ways you can do that. This is a welcome to a club in our stories. I'm gonna drop a photo in between these two sections right here. So to do that, I'm gonna click here on content. And now you can do this in several ways. Here's two different ways. Pre-formatted widgets will give you, right, all these pre-designed kind of ways to drop in a photo. And then custom widgets, which we didn't really talk about, will give you kind of any way. You can put a photo anywhere. You can have 3 photos, whatever. I'm going to use a pre-formatted widget because we talked about it a little bit. I'm going to use here, image with caption. Now you can, Karen, you can choose all these other different kinds, but I'm going to do this. I'm just going to throw it right in here. Okay, and I'm going to drop it in between the two widgets. And you can see I got this giant placeholder. Now here's the drawback with pre-formatted widgets. Here, let me put in a photo real fast. I did that. Hopefully I didn't do that too quick. I'm going to hover over this. I'm going to click the pencil icon right here. It's going to open up my image library. I'm going to choose this at random. And then here's an event, right? And then, you know, whatever, and so on and so forth. Let's make it huge. Let's make it 36. There you go. So now here's the drawback with using a pre-formatted widget. I can't resize the image. The reason for that is because we make the pre-formatted widgets easy to drag and drop. The downside to that is that you don't have much customization available in that sense. So you know, just something to think about. If you now I'm going to redo this. I'm gonna hover over this. I'm gonna click the X. I'm gonna remove this. Let's do this again. And this time, instead of a pre-formatted widget, I'm gonna use a custom widget, which is right here. So I'm gonna choose custom widget global. Global means there's 2 types of custom widget: global and bulletin specific. Global means that it can be reused in other bulletins. It's a shared asset. Bulletin specific means obviously you only get it for this one bulletin, you can't reuse it. So I'm going to use global because maybe I want to use this somewhere else in a different bulletin. So I'm going to drag in, once again, drag in my custom widget. Okay, this is going to be a little different because this is just going to be an empty box. And I'm actually going to go into the more advanced screen. Now you can just do this, and you can kind of go here, and that's fine. Actually, what I'll do is I'll actually just do it right on the screen. So I'm going to go to image. It's going to open up my image library. Okay, where's my image? There it is. Okay, and then where's my CR? There it is. Okay, now this thing is huge. I'm going to make it really small. Okay, so 50 pixels, which is very small. And then I'm going to say smaller image. Okay, and then I can just change everything. I can shove it off to this side. I can do all kinds of stuff. So the advantage, the disadvantage of the custom widget is that it's an empty box. The advantage to the custom widget is that I have all the room in the world to mess around and to change the layout and to do all kinds of stuff. Just be careful, because custom widget, you might not get it exactly the way you want it, but the thing is it's fully customizable because it's in the title, custom widget. Does that answer the question, Karen?
That's terrific. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about getting started.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Karen. Any more questions at all? Oh, I guess I'm gonna say no. Thank you very much, Karen. All right, so we're gonna keep moving on because we're almost at the end of the, okay. Kathleen, I don't know if you have a microphone, Kathleen. Do you have any questions, Kathleen? You may not. I don't know if you have a mic. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, it's me, Kathleen. Thank
Hi.
you. I really enjoyed it. I don't have any questions at this time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kathleen. All right, and then Ken, do you have a microphone? Do you have any questions? I don't know if you have a mic. Let's see if I can figure that out. You might not have a microphone. That's okay. You don't need a microphone for these webinars. You can always type in a question. But thank you, Ken. Okay, Linda, do you have a microphone? You might. And do you have any questions, Linda? I don't know if you have a mic. You might.
I do have a mic.
Great.
This has been absolutely fabulous. I do not have any more questions, but I can promise you that I will be going back and looking at the recorded version of this.
Absolutely. And before I forget, this is actually really important. Please do email us, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't get to cover. There's all these little Easter eggs and other various options. So please do email us, support@clubrunner.ca. I'll be repeating that just as because we're almost done here.
Can we ask for
Thank
you
you.
specifically?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Linda.
Can we ask for you specifically?
If you'd like, sure. Yeah, but the entire support team, they're super knowledgeable. But yeah, you can ask for me or anybody you'd like. I
Great,
appreciate that.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thanks, Linda. And last person, actually. So Vera, you're gonna finish this off. I don't know if you have a mic, Vera, and it's spelled V-I-R-A. Any questions, Vera?
Yes. No, I don't have
Okay,
any
good.
questions. Thank you for the presentation.
You're very welcome. All right. So that's fantastic. We got through the list of people. I want to thank all of you who stayed this long. I know we usually blow our time for something like this. A bulletin is very important. This is still, it's not skimming the surface. You have enough now to create your bulletin, but we didn't do a full deep dive. There's still more to go. So what I'll do is I'll be emailing every registrant, even the people who couldn't show up, because some people emailed us and said they can't show up live. So everybody's give me about 24 hours at least. I'll be sending a recorded version of this webinar, any kind of notes and any kind of help articles that I think would help you out, including this, our online manual. So this is our online bulletin manual. So I'll make sure everybody gets this, hopefully by tomorrow. But we have all your email addresses when you're registering for this webinar. I want to thank you so much for staying this late. This is actually one of our latest webinars. It usually doesn't go this long, but I'm really just ecstatic that we had a lot of questions. They were all great questions. I hope you get a chance to create a bulletin as soon as you can, today or tomorrow. And as I said, if you have any questions at all, I know there's stuff we didn't cover, please do email us, support@clubrunner.ca. I'm going to give you our phone number, 877-469-2582, option 2 for support. Hope I spelled that right. There we go. Okay, and I will definitely end this and I'll let you go. I hope you all have a great day. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming today and asking some great questions. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.